Hi everyone, and welcome to this video tutorial on how to take our parking and mobility study using the accompanying informational packet. My name is Fiona, and I will be walking you through this tutorial today. This video is not something that you necessarily need to watch before taking the survey. It is just a tool and a resource for you to come back to in case you run into any questions along the way while you're taking the survey. So feel free to skip ahead at any point in this video to whatever part of the survey you may be on. We know that this is a long survey and it is somewhat unusual to have the accompanying packet that you need to have in front of you while you're taking it. So we just wanted to provide this resource in case you have any questions along the way. And please feel free to reach out if this video doesn't answer some of your questions. That being said, let's jump right in. So to get to our survey, you're going to go to our website, which is islavistacsd.ca.gov. You're going to scroll over to what we are up to, and then click on the Isla Vista parking study. From there, you're going to scroll down until you see Take Our New Online Survey. You're going to click here to take the survey. And before taking the survey, make sure that you watch this video presentation. This is very important just to get you up to speed on what the parking mobility study is and what we've done so far. So make sure to watch that. And then after you've watched that video, you're going to pull up your informational packet here. So click on this link right here to pull up the informational packet. You can minimize the screen on the side by pressing here. And what I think is helpful to do while you're taking the survey is just pull this informational packet into another tab and pull it over to the side so that you can have both the packet and the survey on your screen in front of you. So now that you have the informational packet on the left, go ahead and get started on the survey. So this is the beginning of our survey, and for the parking strategies portion of the survey that you can see here, you will be using pages 1 through 8 of the informational packet here. So here's page 1, and then here is page 8. And as you can see here, each question of the survey aligns with one of the objectives in the packet, and each answer choice in the survey aligns with one of these strategies listed in the packet. And I know that may seem confusing at first, but don't worry, I'll walk you through and you'll get the hang of it. So as you can see here, question number 1 is the objective of improving compliance with parking policies. And you're going to go ahead and check off which one of these strategies you improve to improve compliance with parking policies. So strategy number 1 is an IVCSD compliance program. If you don't know what a compliance program would look like, you're going to look on your packet here. You can see the objective is improve compliance with parking policies, and you can see all the strategies are listed below that. So strategy number 1 here is an IVCSD compliance program. And you can look at the explanation of what the benefits of this would be and what some of the possible considerations are. And after you've reviewed that strategy, if you decide that you support the implementation of this strategy in Isla Vista, you're going to go ahead and check the strategy off. If you do not support this strategy, you will leave it unchecked. And then moving on to another example, the second strategy listed is a customer-friendly parking ambassador model of enforcement. If you don't know what that is or what that would look like, you're going to look over your information packet. You have the same objective right here. And then you're going to scroll down to strategy number 2, customer-friendly parking ambassador model of enforcement. And again, you're going to read the potential benefits and potential considerations of the strategy. And for some of these strategies, there are images, accompanying images to provide you with a bit more context and a bit more information. So just to repeat myself, for each question, it aligns with an objective in the packet. which is one of these boxes here. Objective number 1 is improving compliance with parking policies, which you can see right here. And then each of the strategies listed below, there's more information on each strategy within this packet. So after you familiarize yourself with the strategies listed in the packet, again, you're going to go ahead and check off which one of the strategies you would like to see in Isla Vista. And you can pick as many as you like, or if you don't support any of these strategies, you can leave all of them unchecked. And there's a space underneath each question to provide additional comments. So if you have any qualifying statements or concerns or considerations, you can write them there. And as we go through this tutorial, I will be arbitrarily giving examples of things that people might want to say or answer choices that people might want to check off just to walk you through the survey. Please do not take any of my answers into consideration. These are just completely arbitrary for the purposes of the survey. Please answer the survey with your own thoughts and opinions and considerations on what you would like to see in Isla Vista. So if you support the strategy, check it off, and you can write down any considerations or worries or qualifying statements that you might have below. And moving on to second example. So question number 2 here, the objective is to enhance safety in Isla Vista. And you check off all the strategies that you support. So you scroll down to page number 3, which has the objective of enhancing safety. And then familiarize yourself with all of the strategies listed here in the answer choices. Once you have familiarized yourself with all of these strategies, go ahead and check off the ones you support and leave unchecked the strategies that you do not wish to see in Isla Vista. And again, objective number 3 here, mitigate parking congestion. I'm going to scroll down to where it says that in the packet, mitigate parking congestion. All of the strategies are listed here, and all of the strategies are explained in the information packet below. So you will go through each of the objectives and each of the strategies and check off what you support. Again, I am arbitrarily choosing which ones I support for the purposes of running through this tutorial. Once you have answered questions 1 through 6, you'll reach question number 7, where it asks you to indicate how you would prioritize the 6 objectives from highest priority to lowest priority. So just in case there's any confusion here, you are focusing on the objectives themselves, not necessarily the strategies. And you're going to rank which ones are the most important to you. So say, for example, when I was filling out the survey, I thought that objective number 2 of enhancing safety was extremely important. Maybe I checked off all the boxes for this objective, or maybe I only checked off one box, but I thought it was the most important thing that I've seen so far in the survey. Then I would go ahead and rate objective number 2 as the most important objective in the survey. So I think it's helpful to go back into the packet, review all the objectives, review what your thoughts were for each objective, and then go ahead and rank those in order of importance to you. So again, I am arbitrarily moving those around, but make sure that when you are ranking these, it reflects your opinions on what you'd like to see in Isla Vista. Okay, so once that section of the survey is all done, you'll be moving on to the next. And there's a space here if you have any additional comments. Maybe there wasn't something that you saw in the survey that you wish you had seen, or maybe there's just something really important that you want to tell us. Make sure to write that here and we'll capture that information. And then you can move on to the next portion, which is the mobility portion. So for the mobility portion, part 1 of the survey, I will scroll down to the accompanying part of the packet that you will need. So for this portion of the survey, Mobility Plan Part 1, you'll be using pages 9, 10, 11, and 12 of the informational packet. So to just walk you through, let's start with question number 11. you are going to identify which policies you think are the most important of the policies listed over here. So here where question number 11 says policy, you're going to look over at page number 9 of the mobility packet where it also says policy. And here it has all of the policy initiatives listed. So P1 over here corresponds with P1 over here. Identify that scooter users are to use bike lanes, install signs, and enforce. And P2 on the survey aligns with P2 in the packet. Identify no parking along bike lanes, install signage, and enforce, and so on. Just provide another example. Question number 12 here, services within Isla Vista, aligns with page number 10 in the packet, services within Isla Vista. And S1 here aligns with S1 here, S2 here aligns with S2 here, and so on. And so for this part of the survey, you're going to be picking your top 3 policies or services, or again, more services connecting Isla Vista. So for example, for question number 11, let's pretend that I am someone who really likes to bike a lot in Isla Vista. And I've noticed that a lot of the times there might be delivery trucks or people walking or cars parked in the bike lanes. So if I was that person and I thought that was really important, I might want to put P2 as my first priority of all of these policies. And maybe another one of my big issues in Isla Vista is that I think cars are speeding way too much. Then I might put P4, where it says lower the speed limit of vehicles, as my second priority. And for the rest of the survey, or for the rest of this section of the survey, you're going to go through all of the policies this way and pick and rank your top 3 most important. So just to reemphasize what I already stated, for question number 12, you're going to look over to page number 10 of the information packet where it says services within Isla Vista, services within Isla Vista, and you're going to identify your top 3 priorities for all of these services listed below. So if I'm someone who really likes to take the bus a lot, maybe S4 might be my first priority. Maybe I'm someone who works really early in the morning and I wish I could take the bus. You might want to put that as your first priority, and so on and so forth. And again, my answer choices are arbitrary. They're just for the purposes of explaining how you might want to think through using this informational packet along with the survey. So please don't use my examples to influence your own decisions. This is just to explain how the informational packet goes along with the survey. Please rank the services and the policies in a way that reflects your own thoughts and opinions on mobility in Isla Vista. So once you've completed these questions, you'll be moving on to the next portion of the survey. Let me put some arbitrary answers in so that we can move on. Sorry, just one moment. There we go. Alrighty, so now we are moving on to Mobility Plan Part 2. We just finished Mobility Plan Part 1, so we're moving on to Mobility Plan Part 2. And here we will be talking about infrastructure. And this is where I anticipate a good amount of people might run into some questions or some trouble, so you might want to skip ahead to this part of the video if you haven't already. So basically, to summarize, for this part of the survey, you're going to select 5 locations that you would like to see infrastructure improvements at. And here you can see we have 27 locations, and you're just going to pick your top 5. So what I think would be helpful to do before picking your top 5 is go ahead and look at the rest of this packet, starting on page 13, and take a look at all of the locations that we have added as answer choices here. And there's maps to jog your memory in case you can't remember all of the street names. But as you can see, I1 here is El Colegio, and that corresponds with answer choice here, I1 El Colegio. And then I2 here is access points between IV and UCSB, and that corresponds with answer choice here, where it says I2, and so on and so forth. I3 Los Carneros Road aligns with I3 Los Carneros Road in the packet. So I would go ahead and look through all of these, at least skim them, and maybe take some notes on which ones you think are the most important to see some improvements at. And then you can go ahead and rank your top 5. So for the purposes of this video, I will again just be choosing arbitrary locations, but I'll explain my thought process. So maybe I'm a student who walks down Pardal to go to class a lot. That might be one of my top 5 locations. Maybe I live on Del Playa. I would probably want to see some improvements there. And, you know, Sabado Tarde is my neighbor, so maybe I'd like to see some improvements there as well. And from there, I will just pick some arbitrary locations. And once you've picked your top 5 locations, you will now be answering some more questions about the initiatives that are proposed at each location. So don't worry, we'll be getting into more detail next. So just choose your top 5 locations that you would like to see mobility improvements at, and then move on to the next section of the survey, where we'll be going more in depth. So as I mentioned before, you'll now be answering more in-depth questions about the top 5 locations that you selected in the previous question. So let's just start with the first one, Pardal Road. You can pick any of them because it will just guide you on to the next one after, but let's just start with the first one for the sake of the tutorial, which is I-14 Pardal Road. And again, I've picked arbitrary locations. Please pick the locations that are the most important to you. It might not be Pardal Road, it might be something completely different. But once you've picked your first location, read the instructions here. I think the trickiest and most important part is this clause right here, where it says, once you have ranked for the individual location found directly below this text, scroll to the bottom and advance to the next page. So I will expand upon that in just a moment. So you have your location that you picked right below that text here. And for us, that is I-14 Pardal Road. You're going to take a look at your packet and you're going to find I-14 Pardal Road, which is right here. And now what we are asking you to do is to rank the following initiatives in order of priority to you. So we have a list of initiatives as answer choices, which you can find in the packet here. And the reason it's helpful to have this packet up with you is not only do you have the map to remind you of what the location looks like, but we also have some photos that give you examples of each of the initiatives. So for example, one of the initiatives is to install bike boxes at intersections on Pardal. You can see a photo right here of a bike box, and you can envision what that might look like on Pardal Road. You can also see here, you want to add a Class 3 bike boulevard to increase cyclist safety. And you can see that on the survey here. And there's a photo of that on the packet right here. So before you go ahead and rank these, make sure you familiarize yourselves with each of the initiatives, take a look at the accompanying photos. You can always look up some more information on Google. Maybe you're not sure what the difference between a Class 3 and Class 2 is. That might just take a little bit of Googling. But once you familiarize yourself with all the proposed initiatives for this location that you chose previously, you're going to go ahead and rank them in order of importance. So let's say again that I'm a biker. Maybe a lot of the bike boxes or a lot of the bike infrastructure improvements are the most important to me, so I'll put those at the top. Maybe there's something that you don't want to see. Maybe for some reason you're really against scooter corrals. Maybe you don't want scooter corrals. You might want to put that at the very bottom. And again, this thought process is arbitrary. Please answer this in the way that reflects your own thoughts and opinions, but I'm just showing you how you might want to think about ranking all of these strategies, because I know that You might not support all of them. So if you don't support some of them, put those towards the very bottom. And this is where we get to the tricky part that I mentioned before, where it says once you have ranked for the individual location, scroll to the bottom and advance to the next page. So we've ranked the initiatives for Pardall Road. You are not going to rank the initiatives listed below. This was just an interface issue that we ran into with SurveyMonkey, where once it selects I-14, it shows you the sequential locations afterward. Since you did not pick these locations earlier, you are not going to go ahead and keep answering. Maybe you did pick Sueño as one, but don't go ahead and answer it here. You're just going to answer the first question on this section, and then you're going to scroll to the bottom. It'll all make sense soon. And move to your next page, and you will see the remaining 4 locations that you've picked. And so you'll just keep repeating this process until you've ranked all of the initiatives for all 5 of the locations that you've picked. So we already answered our first location. You can see the check mark here. And now we will move on to the second location that we picked, which was Sábado Tarde. And so same thing, you're going to answer about Sábado Tarde. You're not going to answer about any of the locations listed below. This was just an interface issue that we ran into. But for example, Sábado Tarde is your next location. You're going to find I-18 Sábado Tarde on the packet. You're going to familiarize yourselves with all of these infrastructure strategies using this packet on the left. And once you familiarize yourself and form your opinions on them, you're going to go ahead and rank them in the order of most important to least important. And then go ahead and skip the locations listed below, hit next, and then move on to the next location. So I will be arbitrarily filling these in just for the purposes of this video, but please take your time when you're answering this. This is solving parking and mobility in Isla Vista is a very complex issue. So we know the survey is very long, but we really appreciate you taking the time to familiarize yourself with all these materials and all these terms and giving us thoughtful answers. We really, really appreciate your time doing that. So now we finished that portion of the survey. And here is an option to provide additional comments. So maybe when you were filling out the survey, there was one strategy that you really, really didn't like. You might want to take note of that and write down here. You might say, oh, I picked Sábado Tarde as one of my top 5 locations, but I really do not want to see X, Y, and Z strategy implemented there because these are my concerns. If you have any statements like that, or maybe you said, maybe you picked your top 5 strategies or your top 5 locations and you want to emphasize that the first one is the most important. Maybe Del Playa is just the most important thing. You want to see all those infrastructure improvements implemented there. You can write that commentary here and we will capture that data. And don't worry, we'll make note of that. And then we can move on to the next section of the survey. And then you are all done. Please do not forget to leave your email for the opportunity to win a $100 gift card to the co-op. We know that this is a very long survey. Like I said, it's a very complex topic, so it requires a lot of thought, a lot of consideration. So we really wanted to offer you guys at least some sort of incentive for taking the time to do this. Again, we really appreciate it. And congratulations on reaching the end of the survey. Please feel free to reach out to us if this video does not answer any of your questions. And you can go ahead and skip to any part of this video, rewatch any part, just in case you have any questions. And thank you.